In the game of life, the bold are guided by two unapologetic groups: the unmuters who speak their truth, and the rebels who live life on their own terms. These are their stories. And welcome to episode 13, I do believe it's 13,
Woo.
of the Unmuted podcast, where I have conversations with exceptional people who share their stories related to being muted in their life and the things they've done to unmute and what they're doing in their lives to help others in that journey. So today I have a really good friend that I met in this amazing container. Diana, thank you for being here with me.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it's pretty cool because without being in this other business group, we would never have met.
That's right.
You know,
That's
it's
right.
it it's cool, and we've got a little group of about 20, almost 20 of us that all have driving businesses, and then we're looking to like just help people with those businesses. And
Yeah.
here we are today doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
So thank you. Just to tell the viewers a little bit about yourself. Just please introduce yourself. No format to this. This is just a conversation. So, and I think when we know it's a conversation, then we actually forget that we're recording, and this is going to be
That's
on
good.
YouTube.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, I help students that are struggling in math. Um, it's been a passion of mine as long as I can remember. I used to just tutor like my friends' kids and stuff, and it turned into substitute teaching when my kids were young. And then that turned into this really specialized area where I was helping students that were in danger of not passing their standardized tests. And through that whole process of asking my kids, when did you begin first having problems in math? And just kind of figuring out exactly what they needed, we ended up doing really, really well with those kids. And the school loved it because they were passing their standardized tests. Like we got up to 96% of our kids passing. But I loved it because I was seeing a difference in their day-to-day schoolwork. They were starting to pass tests for the first time, which a lot of them haven't done. So anyway, it's just been a passion, and I want to reach more kids. That's my goal. I want to reach everybody if I can.
Yeah. And as I have these conversations, I realize even just the concept of unmuting it goes beyond the obvious of where I started in my first episode of us being muted. Like you're bringing up a whole thing around test taking, standardized
Yeah.
tests, and anxiety, and it just speaks to my soul because I thought that there was something wrong with me for years just because there was so much anxiety around test taking. I mean, honestly, I think tests should be
Yeah.
banned. but
Yeah,
but
I'll agree with that.
Yeah. And then, there's more to that, even just the math piece and what you bring to it as far as math goes, because
Yeah.
that was another area that, I just have constantly said, I'm not good at math. I'm not good at math. And I'm sure you have students who feel that way. And
Yeah.
then, yeah,
And the whole, when I started asking my students, I came up with a list of questions to ask each one of them because I was really interested, like, why are you struggling? Because I always feel like I can help anybody, you know, if I just have the time, if I'm given the time to help them. And that one question, when did you first start having trouble in math? And most of them said the third grade. Some of them it was fourth or fifth, but most of them it was third grade. And I'm like, why is it third grade? What's going on in third grade? And I think every middle school teacher knows this, but I didn't at the time because I was learning. Um, and multiplication is the big thing that they begin to learn. And then all the things surrounding multiplication, the 1 minute test, the competitions in class where, who can do them the fastest. And the only kids that get better are the kids that are already good at it, because the ones that miss the question end up at the back of the line, you know? So there,
Yeah.
there's this whole thing that we are actually discouraging, I think, by doing some of those things. Um, we're discouraging them from getting better. And they're only like third grade, you're like 8 years old, and you've determined on your own that you're bad at math. And then year after year, it's confirmed. You get a test, you fail a test, you got to retake a test, and it just gets worse and worse. So one of my biggest things that I've tried to do with my students is, you came up with this idea back when you were 8. And if anybody, you're older now, if you see an 8-year-old, you think they can do anything, the world's their oyster, they can be anything they want. But a lot of them have already decided, well, if I can't do math, I can't do engineering, I can't do
Mm,
science, whatever. So, and I met some of these people in college actually that um, either didn't go into engineering or started in engineering, couldn't do the math, and had to change their degrees, which was, is sad for me, because I knew, well, I could help them, because it's the little things. It's not the big things. It's the little things that are keeping them stuck,
yeah.
because their mindset is back there, and as an 8-year-old, you know,
What do
that's
you think happens in third grade as far as education goes, or even if it's an educational system? What happens in third grade that creates that shift?
there are two there. Well, I think there's many things. Every teacher is different. Every teacher teaches it different. Um, and also every person learns differently. And if those things don't match up, you may be out of luck. Um, the other thing is that um, I don't think this is a good thing, and not I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but
Mhm.
I have a friend of mine that actually taught elementary, and it was third grade. And she told me, she goes, I didn't like doing the math. And I've heard this from many teachers in third grade, but the problem is they have to teach it. If the third grade teacher, you don't have separate classes for math and English and all that, reading, whatever. It's all the same teacher. So one teacher has to teach all the
Yeah.
things. If you don't like math and you're teaching in third grade, you probably don't know what they're going to be facing in the next 3 or 4 or 5 years, you know? So you don't understand the gravity of the importance of multiplication. So
Yeah.
if their heart's not in teaching it, how much effort are they going to go to, you know, to help these kids
Right.
learn? It's not that they don't want them to learn. They probably just don't know. And that they actually there have been studies, if the parent is not good at math and has a really bad uh feeling around math, it gets passed on, whether you want to or not. But if you're telling your kid, oh, I hate math, I can't help you with math, well, that kid's gonna take that with them. And
It's yeah, go ahead,
I was just
finish,
gonna
please finish.
say, it's a really good indicator
Yeah.
if a child's gonna do well or poor in math. You can actually tie those things together because they're young.
Yeah.
Oh,
When I first met you and you were talking about what you do, I was thinking to myself, God, I wish I had had you when I was younger, because I would say I was good in math up until a certain grade. And then all of a sudden it became really hard for me. And I come from Indian family, engineers, and even my parents, I mean, they can do 3-digit mental math when, that I would say, what is this times this? And they'd look up and then they would just do the math in their mind. And so, because
yeah.
in India, they were taught how to do that. And so when I needed help, it was like, figure it out. And I couldn't figure it out because
Oh,
it was
wow.
numbers to me became how a person who says they're dyslexic describes what letters become. So when, like, if there's too many numbers, I just shut down and I tell somebody else, you do it. I can't figure it out. Like
Yeah.
accounting, doing tax time was such an anxiety producing time for me every year up until recently, just because it was number related. So yeah, I mean, you're bringing something, you're offering a support on an area that's really not talked about much.
And I think too, like, I mean, I was good in math up until I think when I hit trig, I started having some issues because it was a different language, you know?
Yeah.
But for me, now kids can have notes and all that kind of stuff. Well, we didn't have that. You had to memorize all the formulas. I've never been good yet, and I'm trying to learn how to say yet. Okay.
Yeah.
But about memorizing, so I would understand how do you get to this place. So then I believe that that part of me that wasn't like, oh yeah, I know this formula. I didn't know the formulas necessarily, but I knew how to get to the formula. I
Yeah.
knew how to backtrack because I understood it. So in that piece right there, I feel like that helps me to help other students that might be in the same place that I was. It wasn't like I was brilliant or anything. It was just, I just figured it out. And I would get my math book and I would read a page, and they don't have books anymore either, which is
Mm,
really hard. And tests are given back after they've taken them, and they get to see them, and then they have to hand them back in because the teacher doesn't have time to make a whole other test for a retake. Because of the retakes, now the kids don't have access to those tests, so they can't go in and figure out what did I do wrong. And the kids that are already insecure are never going to ask questions. And they tell me,
hmm.
they would tell me, I don't ever ask the teacher a question. Even if they have something they got right or they think they got right, but they're so insecure, they don't know. They don't even know.
Yeah. You're bringing me back to when I first started practicing speech in public schools in New York, and we were in Harlem and a Title I school. So very poor performing on standardized tests. So they didn't really educate the students. I mean, the 5 years that I was there, children didn't learn. They were doing Kaplan books because, and you're making me remember that the standardized testing started at third grade for
Yeah,
them.
that
And
did.
so they were in kindergarten having fun, first grade, second
Yeah,
grade, third grade. They were doing Kaplan books. And I remember I had to be a proctor for some of these students, and we couldn't help them, of course. It's
right.
one-on-one IEP testing, and they were in tears, and we just wanted to hold them because it wasn't them. It was, and then also that was my exposure to Common Core math, which I didn't even know what Common Core math is. And I saw how they
Yeah,
were doing division and multiplication. And it's like, what? This does not even make sense to me.
yeah,
Um, so there's so much that happens at that age as you bring that up.
yeah. Well, my oldest, when they were in third grade, they actually had a worry wall for the standardized tests. And I'm like, there's something wrong with this. Like they
What's
had
a
all
worry
these
wall?
a worry wall. They were worried about the standardized tests. So the teacher had them draw pictures about how they felt about the standardized tests. And it was all these like really
Oh my
dark.
God.
Yeah, I'm sure they used up a lot of black crayons because they were just
Wow.
really dark and shadowy. And I'm like, what is going on? This is really
Yeah.
weird. Yeah. Yeah. So they
Wow.
put a lot of fear in them to pass those tests. And of course, the school wants them to make good grades, so then they get a good rating. So then people will want to come to the school and they get more money. And,
Yeah. There's a whole
I
system. That's another episode.
it's all based on money, which is really sad to me.
So you work with middle school students currently. That's your that's,
That's my
would you
main
say that
focus.
that's your
Yeah,
main?
that's my main. I go outside those lines, but when I worked at that school for 4 years, with the middle schoolers, and I think they're at this perfect age where they still have hope, you
Yeah.
know, and they're willing to try. And every one of my kids, without exception, every one of them tried because I got to see them one on one, and that made such a difference, you know. Um,
Did they struggle with anxiety with math and the test taking?
yeah, and I didn't see that part of it, you
Hmm.
know. Um, like they would come in, and you mentioned something in it. Oh, a lot of the things that I helped them with are super simple, like the foundation, because without this solid piece, they couldn't get past the others. So I learned that as I would watch them do work. That's one of the things I like to do. I like to see how they work a problem
Yeah.
and not jump in. If even if they make a mistake, I don't jump in. I just want to see their process. And once I could see their process, that was the first indication. Most of them didn't know the multiplication facts. So they were going on the side of the page and they were working these things out. And it was taking up a lot of time, like minutes and minutes. And we only had like 45 minutes. So we might spend 15 minutes them working out these multiplication problems. So I would go home at night and I would read all these research papers, um, trying to find a solution to help them with this because in the beginning it's like, well, you really need to learn your multiplication facts, go on Khan
Yeah.
Academy, go practice. They'd smiled at me really nicely and then left the room and they weren't going to do it. So I had to figure out another way. And one of the big secrets really that I learned was they need to see the whole fact. They need to see 6 times 8 equals 48 because it dawned on me that they had been working out 6 times 8 since they were in third grade. They've
Yeah.
been working it out over and over and over and over, and they still don't have the connection, even though they can get the answer every time. They were good at getting it. They never connected 48 to 6 times 8. So one of the research papers suggested having the entire fact for them to see over and over again. So I made these
You write on a
posters.
paper? On
Yeah,
a, like, yeah.
yeah, just, and they were really crude at the time. I used a deck of playing cards. I'd have 6 times and
Hmm.
then the 8, and 48. So I had all the difficult ones up there. And so every time they would hit one, I would say, look up there. And they were resistant because they thought it was cheating. And so I had to reinforce, this isn't cheating, this is learning. I want you to look up there. I want you to see the connection between the numbers, you know? So,
You bring up such an amazing point. Just even that it was, if you see it, that it's considered cheating, and like that,
yeah,
just what that would do to your mind to create a block, a mindset block
yeah,
around it. I mean, just knowing what I know about learning and how we learn, eh, that would just it. I mean, talk about what is it, Pavlov and Pavlovian conditioning,
yeah, yeah,
like you're seeing that, oh, you're cheating, so therefore you shouldn't do it. And then you also, those posters used to be up in the classroom when I was back in the 80s when I was in school. So I mean, that's how I
oh,
learned them. We used to see those actual facts. So you're doing something, you're bringing something back to the teaching that
yeah.
was there once upon a time and it worked.
And I do think that some teachers do consider it cheating, you know? And that's just I think it's a misunderstanding of
Mm-hmm.
what it is really, you know? I heard of one teacher that kept the multiplication grid up on their board all the time, and she had them, and she would encourage them, hey, look at this anytime you need a fact. And then she covered up for tests, and the kids got excited because, hey, I learned that fact. They could remember seeing it day after day. So they were learning just by seeing the answer over and over,
Yeah,
right?
that's incredible.
So, I know. I know it's so simple, but I think it could change a lot. If every teacher did that, put the facts up, if every teacher did it, it would change almost everything, I think, because multiplication is used in everything and
Yeah.
saves, and if you know your facts, it's very often a lot quicker to know the facts than it is to put it in a calculator, and more accurate because you can still make mistakes by punching in the numbers.
Yeah, I do it all the
So,
time. It's like
yeah,
put two
yeah,
numbers in and then I've got 6 digits and it's what just happened here. So
yeah.
um
Yeah.
so how do you work with students now? In what capacity? How are you in the schools? Do you work one-on-one? Tell me more
I
about.
do right now, I'm doing private tutoring, and which I love doing. I love helping the kids and seeing how they change, and but I really want to reach more students, and I'm working right now on a plan to have kids come in, and I'm going to work on just their foundation along with their mindset. This whole thing, all this stuff happened in third grade, and they've got this really fixed mindset on their abilities, and it keeps them stuck, you know, in different ways. I mean, every kiddo is different, but um, so I want to help them to see they can do it. Um, and it really doesn't take very long. What I did with my kids is the first time I saw them, I would give them this test. It was multiplication facts, long division, um, some decimal work, subtraction. Even subtraction was an issue from zero, and then fractions. They all hated fractions pretty much across the board, but they hate fractions because of the multiplication. So, and this was like a 1 minute thing. I just said, do it as quickly as you can. And then I could see exactly where they were missing stuff. And then every time they came, we would go back and go over those things. And so that's the kind of thing I want to do with my students, do this over and over and over. And they keep seeing it, they keep practicing. And then with and then mixing in the mindset training with that, um, the idea is to help them not only right now today to do better, but it changes everything for their future. So now they
That's
got
incredible.
yeah. I seriously think, I wish I would have had it.
I mean, the
You know,
fact that you're even bringing mindset into this place, even to students, I think is really cutting edge because, I mean, during COVID, everybody was doing, you've got this huge coaching industry and that just blew up and everybody's talking about mindfulness and mindset and
yeah,
shifting blocks. But I have never really heard of anybody bringing it to education and even to like middle school and
yeah,
down to those levels. So you're really doing something that I don't think too many people are doing. So
yeah.
amazing.
Thank you. I'm excited about it. And, I've been trying to do it for a while. I knew there was something with mindset, but I've been studying it, and I'm actually
Mhm.
studying the whole practice of mindset right now. And I'm just seeing, oh, there's so much more. We can do so much more. And this will pass on not just math, but everything, anything that these kids want to do. And I'm learning myself. Oh, there's things I need to work on, you know, that
Yeah,
having a good mindset, I can be a lot more successful just in having some of those processes in place. They're simple, but if you don't know about them, you can't do what you don't know. So,
definitely.
yeah, so I'm learning a lot.
Yeah, I would love to work with you and can you help me make my GPA higher from college because I was
Well,
pushed into having to take Calc 2 when I couldn't even grasp Calc 1 and got a D in that and I could never recoup it. And then I went through economics with math and switched to
yeah,
psychology. And luckily that was really good, but then I had to take statistics, which even the 90% thing, I don't, it still doesn't make sense to me when I look at probability and all of that. It just does not make sense.
Well, there's
Um,
weird. I took statistics as well, and in the end, I had to take it for accounting. I think that was the thing because I was going to minor in accounting. And so, but it was like it was a beating because it was a whole new language. It was a different language than math, and I did not enjoy it. I did not enjoy learning all the different symbols and things. So I told my teacher, I said, "Hey, just give me a passing grade, and I promise you, I'll never go into this."
that's hilarious.
So yeah, I'm not sure I deserve the grade I got, but I appreciated it. But and that's
Yeah.
another thing too, like you're talking about the GPA. My GPA wasn't great, but um I I passed, I passed and uh I got my degree and I got lots of job offers when I got out. I had three offers from different companies. So um the grade really didn't matter as much as just get through it and do it,
Hmm.
you know, because it was hard stuff. And I'm wondering, like, you said you made a D. Was that passing?
It was passing,
Yeah. But
but
it's not, I mean, that's to me, that's not bad if you make it through it. I mean, you still made it through, right?
yeah, I still made it through. It just the fact that I wanted a high GPA. Once you went off to college, it was about your GPA, and it would have been nice to have, I was aiming for 4.0. I was, my brother
Wow.
was was really high performing in school, and that immediately dropped me to a 3.2, and I could just never get it back up higher than that.
Yeah.
Because of the, but in a way, it was good because it changed the trajectory of what I was going to study.
Right. Right.
And fast forward 30 something years. See, I'm not even doing the math about my age and when I was in college. So I do not want to do
It's
the math.
terrible.
So sometimes I'm overestimating how many years we're even talking about. Um, I'm able to understand mindset. I'm able to understand people's strengths in their brain. Like,
Right.
you know what we're wired for. And I mean, I can kick ass with languages, but math, it's not my favorite thing
Well,
to do.
I mean, I worked as a software engineer for 10 years and I used math once that I remember. Um, it was an interesting application, but it was simple. It was algebra. So, but the good thing, even if don't make the best grade or whatever, what math I think does for your brain is it gives you all these new connections and helps you to solve problems that you may not have thought you could
Mhm.
solve. And I know when I went back to college, I'd been out for 3 years. I got married, worked at a job, and then realized I need to go back to school and went back and I mean, it was, my brain was just mush, I really hadn't used it.
Yeah.
And so I was forced into now all of a sudden I'm programming and I'm doing all these high level math courses and I'm like, just struggling. I mean, I was really struggling. But by the time I graduated, I was like, I felt like I could solve anything. And even small problems. It's like, okay, I know there's a solution. I know it's out there. I just got to figure out how to do it. Which probably before that, no, it wasn't there. If it was there, it was very small. But after doing all the high level training, I just felt like I could do anything, you know?
It's amazing because that I feel is what you're going to give to the students and what you already are is getting them to understand they can do anything and the confidence
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you're support. Yeah.
So I think, yeah, and I think that, calculus is cool and it does force your brain a lot, stretches your brain.
Oh
But
yeah.
I would love to see kids learn how, learn about money. How does money work?
Yeah.
How do you, have a bank account? How does interest work? What if you buy a car? What if you have a credit card? All those kind of things that everybody has to face, you
Right.
know, because I've seen people go, on their own and they don't understand when they bounce a check. Well, who does checks anymore? But
Yeah. Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
or don't understand if they don't pay their credit card off right away, you're paying an extra 25 to 30%
Right.
of
Right.
what you just bought. So now, a $10 item is now 12.50 or
Right.
$13.
Yeah. Wow. This
Yeah.
is amazing. Now, do you also work with the parents or just the students?
I will be working a little with the parents. Even now, like I will let my parents know how my students are doing and then some things that they can do to help them. The biggest thing I'm learning right now in mindset is that you don't praise the A, you don't praise a good grade, you don't praise winning something. You praise the process because it's the
Ah,
process that gets them to that goal. Praise, oh, you worked on problems, all this every day this week. That's awesome. You did great on your practice. That's great work. So focus on that instead of focusing on the end result.
that is incredible. I mean, like, I feel like that is the perfect message to end this is praise the progress. Just, and yeah, I think we are so, as a society, we're so used to praising results. We're praising, oh, if you're a team, who did best and rewarding somebody for that rather than looking at the progress you're making rather than the collective picture
Exactly.
of like where the journey that we're going through. I mean, that is absolutely amazing that you're even sharing that. And you're a gift to the students and to the parents. So if somebody wants to reach out to you, because if you are looking for support, I mean, share more about how somebody could connect with you and um, work with you.
Oh, okay. My business name is DIJOMath.com. That's a shortened version of my name. It's Diana Joe. So DIJO Math. And I've got, right now, I've got quite a few YouTube videos out there that, help kids with standardized tests and just mindset. Um, and let's see, what else do I have? I've got some other things that I'm going to be doing. I've got a Facebook page, DIJO Math, on called DIJO Math, and then I've got an Instagram, DIJO Math. And so mostly, I think most of the information you can get right now is on YouTube. But if you message me in any of those platforms, I'll get back to you and we can work something.
Amazing.
So
We'll drop your links in the description below, but definitely start following Daijo Math on YouTube and reach out to Diana on Instagram. And we can all start falling in love with math and even just test taking and see it as fun once
yeah,
again.
yeah.
Thanks for being here with me.
Thank you so much, Priya.